Scotland's squad for the Six Nations. Apology, this one's a bit overdue. There's been so many squads and so many games on recently. And plus, I think Scotland, Ireland, Wales all came out at the same time. So it is a wee bit overdue. I've had a look at the Scotland squad. I am going to need some of you guys' insights and advice on some of the players because Gregor Townsend has certainly shifted things up a wee bit for his squad. He's kind of not been helped by the fact that, some of the old guns have retired. Laidlaw's gone, Seymour's gone, Barclay's gone. These guys all retired. Not necessarily a bad thing. It gives the chance for some of the younger guys to come through, but it's also, I guess, forced his hand in some situations. But again, not necessarily a bad thing. It's the start of a new cycle. Disappointing World Cup campaign, you'd have to say. So it's time for them to shift things up, blood some new guys, and they're certainly doing that, at least in the initial squad. And we'll see how many of these guys actually get game time. But yeah, like I said, I'll definitely need a wee bit of advice from some of you guys in terms of some of the players I should be looking out for. So I'll go through the squad, talk a wee bit about the fixtures, and then I guess we'll talk about what the expectations are for this Scottish side. Props, you got Bergen, Batty, Dell, who I didn't actually even know had moved to London Irish. That's how bad that is. Xander Fagerson, Nell, and Sutherland. I forgot about Sutherland entirely in terms of Scotland. I don't think he's played for Scotland in a very long time. But I still do like those props. You guys will know I definitely have a soft spot for Alan Dell. I'm not sure if he's the kind of prop that at this stage, like if you look at the World Cup final, it seems to be that right now props who win your scrum penalties are maybe the in thing. But there's certainly still a place in the game you have to think for guys who are also good around the park. And, Townsend's team's supposed to be that attacking flair team, so maybe that's also what he's kind of going for as well. Hookers, Fraser Brown, Stuart McAnally, and George Turner. That's a good lineup of hookers, man. You'd have to say, George Turner I saw the other day had some toe about him for a guy in the number 2 jersey. I think Fraser Brown scored a try in the other game I watched as well. And Stuart McAnally, he's also got a bit of gas. So, in terms of hookers, you'd have to say there's a fair bit of depth there. Locks, Alex Craig is one of the uncapped ones. He's a guy who I don't know that I could place if you showed me his picture. So what you guys know about him would be interesting. He plays for Gloucester. So I probably have seen him, but I'm probably too busy watching like Mostert and some of the other guys when I'm watching Gloucester. Scott Cummins, Johnny Gray, and I keep telling myself is probably one of my favourite Scottish players. But there's so many guys that for some reason I have an affinity to some of the Scottish players. I don't have any Scottish ancestry, so not that I know of. That's a weird one, but I do like Johnny Gray. He is that tackling machine. The guy can make 40 tackles in a game if you give him a chance. So I do like having him there. Grant Gilchrist as well is another like classy operator, second row, Ben Toolis. So you've got depth there in the second row. Plus, like I said, Craig, who's uncapped. Cummins only got 8 caps, so a good mixture. Lucy's, and I got 2 favourites here as well. They're the kind of obvious ones, but you got Magnus Bradbury, Luke Crosby, who's I haven't seen much of Edinburgh this year because they're not in the Champions Cup. I've watched the odd Pro 14 game here and there, but not anywhere near enough to speak with any authority on that. So, what kind of player Luke Crosby is, I'll take your guys' thoughts. Cornell Dupria, again, I haven't seen much of Worcester this year, so. That guy's played for Scotland before, but he wasn't in the World Cup squad, so how he goes will be interesting. Tom Gordon is another one who's uncapped. He's from Glasgow. Nick Hanning, uncapped from Edinburgh, so there's certainly some young blood in the back row. Jamie Ritchie and Hamish Watson, those guys are phenomenal operators, so I hope to see those guys playing, and then how they manage the rest of them, I'll leave that to Gregor Townsend. But yeah, Hamish Watson needs to stay fit, man. That guy getting injured is just heartbreaking. So that's the forwards. Like I said, good mixture of experience and some guys with fewer caps. Halfbacks, sorry, scrum halves. George Horn, Ali Price, and Henry Purgos. I don't think you can have any complaints there. From what I've seen of Horn and Price for Glasgow this season, they've been in form, and Purgos is a good operator for Edinburgh as well, from what I've seen of him in the past. Tens, you got Hastings and Russell. I'm curious to see how much time Hastings gets. I hope it's a bit more, but it's hard to do that when you've got Finn Russell, who is just the guy who can make unbelievable stuff happen. But I do hope Hastings gets a bit of time. They don't really have an out-and-out guy who's the third choice number 10. Rory Hutchinson is probably the closest guy who could step in, and I think Townsend mentioned it was in the lead up to the World Cup that he could be potentially covered for 10, but he didn't end up going to the World Cup, so that was a bizarre one. But Hutchinson's in the squad too. Chris Harris, Sam Johnson, Hugh Jones, Matt Scott, and then other midfielders, outside backs. You got Brian McGuigan, Kyle Stain. Kyle Stain's another one of your uncapped guys. Darcy Graham, Stuart Hogg, Blair Kinghorn, Shaw Maitland, and Ratu Tagive. I don't know that I've ever seen him play, and he plays for Glasgow. Is he any good? I looked him up. Apparently he's an Aussie. Qualifies on residency. He was in the Brumbies squad, but I sure never saw him play for the Brumbies. Played rugby league. I don't watch anywhere near enough rugby league to recognise anyone but the absolute kind of biggest stars. So, yeah. But, I mean, you look at that, and, I mean, Hugh Jones, from what I've seen of him, is back to being Hugh Jones, which is fantastic. Sam Johnson has come a very long way in the last couple of years. Hutchinson is a good operator. And Chris Harris has been good from what I've seen him too. So the midfield is pretty solid. Darcy Graham, Stuart Hogg, and if you put, I don't know, Maitland there, Kinghorn as well. Kinghorn's another one of my favourites. I think there's the talent in this team to do better than they are being predicted to do, because they're being predicted to be one off Italy, right? They're supposed to be fifth, if you believe all the talk. And I suppose it's the away form which tends to be the trouble. They've only got the 2 home games this Six Nations campaign, so the away form will need to be better. Like, I still remember last year's Six Nations when they travelled to France, being about as disappointed as I could have been in that Scotland squad, because they had so much on paper but just didn't fire on that day. So I'm hoping for a good campaign. I seriously look at that list, and there are guys there who are out and out just top class. So they need to do something. It's been a long time between drinks for Scotland in terms of a Six Nations campaign, and the pressure's kind of off in terms of that they're not expected to win it, although the pressure is also kind of on in that they'll want to hold against England to keep a hold of the Calcutta Cup, and after the disappointing World Cup campaign, they'll be expected that there's an improvement from there as well. Some of the guys who didn't make the squad, I think Duncan Taylor is probably one of the most obvious ones, I guess. But again, the midfield is looking pretty good the way it is. Pete Horn didn't make it either. Duncan Taylor, I mentioned. Nick Gregg, did he get injured in the game recently? I'm sure I saw him play. Ryan Wilson. I know Pete Horn gets a lot of flack in Scotland, and to be fair, looking at the squad, I don't have a problem with him not making it. Some of the guys who are apparently not available due to injury, Sam Skinner, Matt Fagerson, Blade Thompson, whose Scotland career hasn't really got off the ground. So, yeah, it is going to be an interesting one for the Scots. I actually had a bit of a terrible headache this afternoon, but when I started looking at the squad, it got my blood pumping for the Six Nations. So that seems to have have done the trick. So maybe that's what I should do anytime I get a headache, is just look at a squad that's got Finn Russell, it's got Blair Kinghorn, guys who are exciting to watch. Hamish Watson, come on. The fixtures list, away to Ireland is a pretty tough way to start the campaign. But new coach, a few new faces in that Ireland squad. Scotland's got the stability. This is it's a factor that if Scotland play it as good as they can, and the Irish setup aren't quite on song, Scotland go and get an away win. Stick with me. At home, I mean, just look at last year's result in Six Nations. Scotland are going to play well against England, so they don't have the benefit of being against the squad which has got a new coach like they are against Ireland, because Eddie Jones is still with England, but they're at home. I think that's a key factor. If that's an away game, I mean, you never know after last year, but that's a lot tougher. At home, give them a shot. You got to beat Italy. Home against France. Last year, like I said, was terrible, but they were away. And then, could you imagine away trip to Cardiff for the Six Nations? Am I dreaming? Probably. Because the consistency thing really seems to elude Townsend's guys. But honestly, I like the squad. I like the players that I kind of know. As I said, there are some that you guys will have to kind of educate me about, because I'm certainly not as familiar with them as I should. But yeah, there's some guys like Dupree, like Hugh Jones, Hutchinson, these guys who didn't make the World Cup squad and are back with a crack, plus a few uncapped guys as well. So yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on the squad. How do you think they are going to stack up in the Six Nations last year? Is the objective just to get better than last year? Is it to finish 4th instead of 5th? Or is it to legit actually, push Ireland away from home to win against England? That's probably the sweetest one of all when Scotland gets those results. Beating Italy obviously is a must. And then, I mean, surely you got to target that home game against France. But they've got a new coaching staff as well, so we will see. You guys let me know your thoughts on the squad. As I said, please do let me know any kind of cool facts or advice on some of those uncapped guys. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later. Remember, guys, if you are looking to get yourself some Scotland gear ahead of the Six Nations, England Rugby Store stocks Scotland gear as well. They've got the previous season jersey, which is, it's being discounted now. It looks like they've only got medium left in that one. They've got, this is, I think, the current one. That one's only got 2XL left. They've got the World Cup jersey, the alternative one, 3XL. There's other stuff in stock as well, so you guys check it out. If you want 10% off, follow the link in the description and use the code 2cents10 at the checkout, and you get an additional 10% off that purchase price. Cheers, guys.